Good evening, and welcome to Motivational Monday. I'm your girl, Jackie O. Guys, let me tell you, we have an amazing show on tonight with Miss Delia Parker-Mims. We're super excited that she's going to be joining us in just a little bit. But I wanted to share with you, I don't know, do y'all know that Wednesday, April the 6th, is going to be our 2-year anniversary for Motivational Monday with me, your girl, Jackie O. I cannot believe it has been 2 years. In a couple of days, it will be 2 years that we have been coming live to you for Motivational Monday for 2 years. Y'all, Motivational Monday, it is all about not just inspiring and motivating you to action and to live your best life. It is also for you to live a well and a healthy life. Because you got to be well and healthy in order to live your best life. So we have come to you for 2 years with some amazing women and men. We have talked about things, mental illness. We've talked about postpartum, parenting, finances, imposter syndrome. Oh my goodness, men's mental health. We have talked about it all. We have had women on our show from all over the world, from Ghana, Kuwait, the Philippines, Japan, Germany, California, New Jersey, Kentucky, Texas. You name it, we've had the ladies on here. They are from all backgrounds, all walks of life, entrepreneurs, mothers, homeschoolers, career women in corporate America. We have had them on here sharing their stories. So we appreciate you guys for being with us for this 2-year journey, for sharing our Motivational Mondays, because when you share our Motivational Mondays with others, you're sharing someone's story. And it could be a lifeline for someone else. So thank you so much for your support. Thank you for supporting Jackie O. Jackie O is an online hub where we provide resources and amazing skincare products. We have our own skincare line, which is an organic skincare line called the Glow Collection by Jackie O. So again, thank you guys so much for all of your support, your prayers, everything that you have done and that you are doing. We greatly appreciate you. So are y'all ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? I can't say it exactly like TD Jakes. You know how he says it? Get ready, get ready, get ready. Get ready, because we are bringing on our very special guest, Miss Delia Parker-Mims. Hello, Delia. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. And congratulations on your 2 years. That's phenomenal.
Thank you so much. Yes, when we started Motivational Monday, we're still learning as we're going. I mean, I believe we're forever learning and evolving and becoming. But we had no idea what we were doing. But we knew we had to do something because the pandemic had just happened, and we were like, oh my goodness, we have to do something. And so that's how we got started with Motivational Monday, and it has been absolutely phenomenal. So again, thank you so much for being our guest on tonight. And y'all, we're going to hop right into our show. And we're going to have Delia introduce herself and tell us a little bit about who she is.
Who am I? That could be an essay topic. I'm Delia Parker-Mims. I am a regular person who, I like to say super women are just regular people who are just doing extraordinary things now. I'm not going to say I'm a superwoman, but, she and I are never in the room at the same time. But currently, I am the Denton County Democratic Party chair, and I've been in that position, the interim chair, finishing a term from the previous chair, and then I will resume my own seat in July. I am a wife, a mother, I'm an attorney, I am a friend, a sister, a daughter, and just someone really interested in helping other people reach their full potential. That's kind of what I've been dedicating most of my professional life to, and personal life as well.
All right. And I like that how you said that you're you're every woman rolled up into one. You're a mother, you're a career woman, but you care about your family and your community. And that shows with the things that you are involved in. I met Delia last month, I believe it was, and we were at Kendrick Creative Literary Art and Literary Press, I'm sorry, in Music City Mall in Lewisville. And we were a part of a panel for Black History Month. And I loved her energy. She was so passionate about voting and just everything that she was talking about. She was very passionate about it. And I was sitting there thinking as she was talking, I have to have her on Motivational Monday. Like, she has to be our
Well,
guest.
if anything, we need to be motivated. We do need to be motivated to get out and vote. So
Yeah, exactly. And so that was really key because that's what you talked about. And we're going to talk about that tonight as well. But I do remember when you were talking and you were sharing your story about your grandmother. And as we go into talking about voting, share with our audience the story that you shared with us about your grandmother and her voting.
sure. Now, my grandmother's name is Delia. So I was named after her, and I think she was named after her grandmother. So it's a long tradition. I hope my children keep up. Hint, hint. And she loved to go vote, and I can imagine she had some obstacles during her time period when she voted. But when she would go vote, it would have to always be on election day. We could, for some reason, it was like maybe she felt her vote didn't count if it wasn't on election day. And then when she would go vote, it was also such a privilege. She would dress up to go vote. So you put your Sunday best on. And I love that idea that it was so valued to her that she wanted to make sure it was election day and that she went and presented herself in such a dignified manner to go do that. What we talked about a little bit was some of the obstacles that we have now with voting as it relates to my grandmother. I ran for commissioner in 2020, which had only a few cities, not the entire county. And that body of politic is in charge of our voting precincts and our centers. And so when my grandmother voted on election day, as in 2022, she would have had to have gone to the precise precinct. And in my city, in Lewisville, in Southeast Louisville, you have a lot of senior Black folks that vote. And I can imagine they, like my grandmother, would not be on the computer trying to find where their voting location is. They would just go to the same spot. And in that area, a lot of times they may go to Macedonia. And during early voting, as you know, everybody can vote anywhere in the city. But on election day, you have to go to that precise voting location. So part of what I was interested in then as running for commissioner, now as county chair, is making that access to voting accessible to everyone for people like my grandmother. Because on election day, that place that they were used to going to go vote during early voting may not be their precinct. Right. And they're not going to get on the computer and look for it and find out where their exact precinct is. And you can imagine that area of town is most likely a large blue voting area. So on election day, their precincts change. You go to some other location and their precinct stays the same, like perhaps Robson Ranch, and you have those seniors who get to ride their golf carts and go vote on election day. It's always at the same location, and it's in a gated community. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing that I keep working on in memory of her. When I ran, I got a sample ballot with my name on. I was on the last page at the bottom of the ballot, and I can only imagine that, since voting was so important and special to her, how much it would have meant to be able to see her name on the ballot, which was also my name. So that was a good moment. And the things that we do now to create access to voting is a large part in due to knowing that people like my grandmother believe in voting, value it, they find it important, but need access to it. So I do a lot of what I do in memory and thinking of those obstacles that she would have had to have overcome.
Yeah. And share with us some of the obstacles that currently we have right now that what you're working on?
Well, there's a lot of obstacles that have been just put in place simply because people began to vote. And so, I'm sorry, I'm a lawyer. So, we take things back and bring it forward. Mm-hmm. I think that when Obama ran and he taught us that the politic looks like everybody, and people started believing, yes, we can. And I know when he ran, I went to the polls and I saw all kinds of people voting, in 2018 with Jerry curls, those have been out of play for a long time. And all, just standing there realizing that message that he sent us, yes, we can. And yes, we can control the politic. People started voting. And I think as a result of that, we had Republicans believe, well, we better slow down this process and this flow of people running through. So you saw in a lot of these states, like in Florida, just changing things to make it more difficult. You can't even bring water over there in Florida. Now in Texas, because the fear is that people believe that they can make a difference. And if you can make it difficult and create what I call the new poll tax, my grandmother had a poll tax back in the day, which is why she probably valued it so much when she was able to vote freely. But now what I call the poll tax are the obstacles we have to overcome. In Houston, which was also a large reason why our state legislature enacted a lot of laws, is because you had you have a Democratic commissioner's court that opened up 24-hour voting. And so people who work odd schedules could vote from 10 in the morning till 6 in the morning, if that was the only time. And they had over 10,000 people voting during that time period. So they shut that down. They shut down the number of places that you can drop off your mail-in ballot. They have created an issue when it comes to mail-in ballots because that is a large Democratic voting place or voting areas, primarily because of COVID. Mm-hmm. So you had a lot of Democrats who wanted to mail in ballots. So they put obstacles in, number one, how you can even request a mail-in ballot. Yeah. So a lot of seniors don't know that you've got to request it every year. Well, they've put obstacles in it. So first, your first obstacle is, how do I request it? Well, they'll put on the form, put your Social Security or your driver's license. And then you fill it out and you mail it back to the elections office, and then they'll mail you your ballots throughout the year. But if you don't put the right one, if you don't put the correct identification, whether it be your social or your driver's license, then your mail-in ballot request is then thrown out. Who remembers what they used 50 years ago? Did you use your license or did you use your Social Security number? Yeah. So a large thing that we do is have to educate people to fill out both of them. Don't just put in one or the other. It would even be helpful if they put on that form social and driver. So at least you knew it was required to put them both. So you had an unprecedented number of mail-in ballot applications being thrown out. Okay, which creates obstacles, and people don't even know their ballots are being thrown out or their request. So then they're sitting there wondering, why didn't I get my ballot? Then you've got the issue of, well, I made it through that hurdle where I can get my mail-in ballot. So now you fill out your ballot, and then they will go in and determine if they don't feel you put in the correct information, like I just described, or if your signature looks different. And I know that depending on how I feel, my name comes out differently. So you have people sitting around on the elections board deciding that, the ballot that you mailed in wasn't correct. And then they will get rid of that. And they're supposed to be offering opportunities for you to cure that. So hopefully those processes and mechanisms are being followed. But I'm happy to say that in Denton County, while we did have a lot of ballots being thrown out and we had a lot of applications being thrown out, the numbers far exceeded on the Republican side than the Democratic side, because one thing we're doing is trying to provide a lot of education so that people will know how to request their ballots correctly and how to fill out their ballots once they get them, and then to follow up and correct them if those ballots are being thrown out. So, those, particularly those mail vote by mail ballots are hurting where they can drop those off in the Houston area where they have millions of people. They've designated one spot where they can drop them off. You can imagine the car log that would create.
Yeah.
Just unnecessary obstacles.
Yeah, exactly.
And another thing that they did recently was we have a very aggressive voter registration program in our county party. So when they had the new Secretary of State, which was, I think, a former Trump lawyer, they changed the rules and said, well, we no longer have any paper to print applications to register to vote. And then they stopped accepting the old applications. So let that sit in. Yeah. We don't have any paper to mail applications, and we're not going to accept the old applications to register to vote. So just creating those hurdles in the technical aspects of registering, voting by mail, voting at home, as well as in Denton County, not designating this county as a vote center so that you can vote anywhere on election day.
Wow. Real quickly, we want to welcome everyone that has popped in and said hello. Thank you guys so much for joining us on this evening. We're talking to Delia Parker-Mims, and currently we're talking about voting. And so she was just explaining to us some of the struggles that we have. There are many struggles, but she was giving us some of the top ones. So if you guys have any comments or questions, go ahead and pop them in the comment section and we will try to get to you. But back to this with the struggles and the voting. I know that earlier when you and I were talking before we came on air, and you were saying how there's people on the grounds. And so we know that there are people on the grounds and they are out there and they are advocating and helping to get people to vote and to know the process, because some people just, as you stated, some things have changed. They don't know the process of what's going on. And so we have these people that are on the ground and they are helping to do that. How important is that? I mean, we know it's important, but like really how important is that for that to be done and for us to be involved in making that happen?
Well, that's extremely important. Getting out the information of what needs to be done, I think was helpful for at least in this county as to why we had better numbers than the other side, because we know that those are large voting blocks. You know, we would like to encourage people to go and vote in person if possible, but that's just not possible for everyone. It's just not possible for some seniors. It's not possible for some of your disabled citizens who want to exercise their right to vote. They just can't get out and do that. So what we're doing in our party is we will create phone banks and start calling those who are eligible. If you are a certain age, if you are out of the county, or if you're disabled and if you voted by mail in the past, it's important for people like yourself and other people listening to help us, get on those phone banks so we can call people. It's a friendly call and say, hey, we just want to make sure you filled this out correctly so that your vote and your voice will count. So that's something that's important to do. It's important if you have a loved one in your circle. So if we're training people who are caretakers or who have, like my mother, you would want to know the proper way to do that. So at least you can help educate your own circle to how to do things correctly. So those are opportunities that are certainly, we certainly did during the primary to try to let people know how to fill those ballots out. And it's going to be an ongoing, continuous educational process. So even if you're someone who says, I don't vote by mail, but you may know someone who does.
Yeah.
So you're going to want to make sure you're informed on what's the correct way to do that so that you can help the people around you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's very important that we do help the people around us. We had a comment said, we did not have a drop-off box for mailing in ballots in Denton County.
No, we did not.
We did not.
We just don't have one.
So will that change, or it's just we're not going to have one?
Well, I think the new law only says that there can be one in your entire county. That is something that's not even offered in Denton County. So it's like, uh, you know, there you have that. But when you look at larger counties like Houston, which I think a lot of these new laws were created because of the aggressive way that the Houston County Commissioners Court approached voting and tried to make it accessible. It should be participating in democracy should be the easiest thing to do. And so you have a largely Democratic county with large numbers of people. And if you only designate one spot where they can drop off vote by mail, can you imagine the traffic, the logistical backlog that alone would create?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so just sticking on the lines of education, how can people, like, where can they go to find out what they need to do and how they can be involved? Because a lot of times people just, they don't know. And so I know we have people on the grounds, and there a lot of footwork happening, grassroots organizations that's helping people, but say for instance they don't reach them. Like, what are some other avenues that people can get this information to help them to get out and vote and do what they need to do?
Well, one thing we're going to be doing, if and I'm hoping I'm talking to Democrats, is you want to contact the Denton County Democratic Party, and I think our website is pretty simple. If you simply type in Denton County Democratic Party, it will come up. You can insert your name for more information, or you can contact me. I'm the county chair, or any of our other leaders, and say that you want to get involved. But we do have a link that says you want to volunteer. We also need to increase the number of precinct chairs. And like you yourself have just volunteered to be a precinct chair. That is wonderful. So if you do want to have more information, your precinct chairs will be people who would certainly be able to direct you in your precinct about where to vote or how to volunteer.
Yeah.
And you should be able to go on the website and determine who your precinct chair is. And if you don't know, you can go to votedenton.gov, and then you go to your own voter lookup and type in your own name and your own date of birth, and then it will tell you what precinct you're in. And then you can go to our website and find who your precinct chair is. And that's also a very great way to start, is to contact your precinct chairs and get as much information as possible. If you don't have a precinct chair, because we have spots that we need to fill, then that's also something that's really important to consider doing. You don't have to have any prior training. A lot of people feel insecure, like they don't know enough. You need to be a political savvy. You don't. You just have to be a person with passion. Have to be a person who believes that, they've been paying attention and they're angry and they want to throw a brick through the window. Okay, that's passion. And then decide, I'm going to take it upon myself to be the precinct chair in my precinct. And then we will be starting some more onboarding of our precinct chairs and training.
Okay. All right. Sounds great. Thank you. And we're putting up the information, the websites that you can go to for Denton. We have votedenton.com, and then the other one is dentondemocrats.org. So we'll also be putting that in the captions so that you guys can go back and you can go and you can register to volunteer and get any information that you need for Denton County. This is Denton County that we're talking about at the current moment. So yes, thank you so much for, I think it's Antonella, for getting that information put in for us. We greatly appreciate it.
Hey, Antonella, she's one of our great precinct chairs. That's very
okay. Yes, thank you so much. So we're going to kind of turn a little bit. We've been talking about voting, and we know we're just coming out of Women's History Month. And, that's a month that's set aside for women, but we should celebrate it all the time. And so it's just April the 4th, so we're still going to celebrate if that's okay with everybody. And I wanted to ask you just a couple of questions surrounding that and women and yourself as being as accomplished as you are and all of the achievements and everything that you have done. We talked a little bit about the struggles earlier in voting that we have, but what are some of the struggles that you had as a woman on your journey to where you are now? Share with us some of those struggles.
I have had the same struggles I think we all have, and you all know what they are. Wanting to be more active, but then having children and balancing the activism with your family role, because regardless of what anybody thinks or does, women still maintain the predominant role in terms of children. Certainly even bearing children, right, it could be considered a burden. Of course, when your children come, we're more than blessed, right?
Yeah.
But it's been pretty much, that has been the first part. I started my practice. I had opened my own office. And then once I started having children, I had to close it, because you can't really give them as much attention as you want to when you're birthing your other baby, which is your business. Right. And so they started coming into conflict. The other thing is being able to get out in the community and volunteer. And so that's something that came up. Like when I ran for office, I ran for mayor out here, and some of the criticism was, well, we haven't seen you. I'm about the same age as one of the gentlemen that I ran against. I've been at these city council meetings all the time. About that time, I probably was at home with my children. But this is how I did volunteer, though. I believe in meeting people at their needs. And I think a lot of women do that as well. So rather than wanting to say I am at a certain meeting, before I could actually have the time to get out, I was volunteering for parents who couldn't show up at their children's art meeting, who didn't know, being a surrogate parent. I was developing programs because I was a lawyer and realized that a lot of people didn't have access to justice. So I developed programs to help broaden people's ability to get into the system, not doing things simply to build your political resume, but doing things to enhance the community and meeting people where their needs are. So I did that a lot, and I don't regret it. And that is who I am, and that is how I operate. And those are the kinds of things I still do. But as a woman, it's challenging because there's a certain period of time where you can't be at city council meetings at 6 and 7 o'clock. Right. You just can't. You can't do it all. Now, I did bring my children with me to a lot of things. They're very well known and very popular, because when I could get them to go with me, and they were with me at certain things. But the fact of the matter is, when you are invested in your family, that's a huge challenge for women. And the role that we play in our ability to invest in the neighborhood and the community and other people's lives is something that is downplayed. Mm-hmm. But the access to justice that I know I've personally created for other people, the notes that I get from people who remind me after all these years, I may not even remember them, but they remind me how I was able to do something on a volunteer basis that helped them open the doors in their lives to opportunity, or to free themselves, mm-hmm. or to move forward. I think those things are valuable, and it's sort of a sexist way of comparing things when you're just looking at resume building in organizations where I say you're sitting in, as opposed to serving your community. So, and I think that's a huge obstacle that a lot of women face.
Yeah. And I loved how you talked about serving. And as I was reading your bio and just all the things that you have been doing, not just your bio, but just seeing all the things you've done in the community and that you're still doing, that it's very important, as you were stating, to serve people and to meet them where they are, because that is making a change in people's lives and it's making an impact in their lives, when you have a servant's heart.
Yeah.
And you're not just there, just doing something, but you truly, truly are serving the people, serving the community, and helping them where they need help the most. Because you can put together a lot of different programs, but if the people don't need it, and you're just like going over their head, pretty
Yeah.
much.
Let me give you an example. So when I was working, I had time to do volunteer work in communities in school, and I would go and basically befriend one child in one of the Title I school districts. And I would go there each week, and I would meet with this child, and the teachers and administration all told me, we expect this child to fail the STAR test, even though the grades did not reflect that. So and why is that? Well, because there's some type of learning thing that they could not quite diagnose.
Mm-hmm.
And when they did diagnose her, the kid did not fall on a large enough scale to actually be placed in special ed to get support services. So it was acceptable to the school district that we all knew this child was not going to pass the STAR test. But because I continued to go meet with them and meet with the child, advocate and say that is absolutely unacceptable, because the parents are not unnoticed, because her grades are not reflecting that. But they are understanding that when she's taking these exams, they just knew she was designated to not pass that STAR test.
Mm-hmm.
So by continuing to advocate for them, they had to go back and reevaluate and then discover, or it could be discovering, or, well, we want to get her off our case, that being me. They decided that she did qualify and then started getting her support services. But you had this dynamic where this child, her parents would have never been put on notice because they're not really seeing failing grades. She wasn't a behavior problem, so she wasn't being put in special supports for any behavior issues, but yet there was some type of development problem that they knew would prevent her from passing that STAR test. And that just seemed acceptable to them. So when you can impact, I will take that any day of the week, impacting someone's life that could potentially be changed forever, because now they're going to be provided with support services in the 5th grade, as opposed to getting in the 9th and 10th grade, if they are able to matriculate to that point and feeling hopeless because they're not having success, or they're just being passed up to get get out of the elementary school or to the next grade to get them away.
Right.
That is unreasonable. And that is meeting people where their needs are. That is being in the community and providing help.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree with that. And what you said about just impacting that young child's life. And now there's a program in place. And that is very important for that, because you are being an advocate for those that possibly can't advocate for themselves, and you advocate on their behalf. So that's really good. As we are wrapping this up, Delia, share with us one or two or three, you can, some things that you would like to leave the audience with. It could be anything. It could be on voting or whatever you would like to leave us, a thought that you would like to.
Well, first, I would like to say that we need to get back to remembering that, yes, we can. Yes, we can have an impact. I think we've gotten to a point where we feel a little emotionally overwhelmed, and we've forgotten that. We've forgotten whatever that was that Obama awakened in us and made us want to be a part of the process. We can do that. If you are paying attention, then you would be angry and want to throw a brick through the window. If you are a woman and want to be able to have autonomy over your own body, then you should be livid, and you should be wanting to understand how to navigate through the mind trap. And mind, I mean MINE, of that they've created in terms of how we get to vote and overcoming that. So remember, yes, we can do it. we can get past all of these things that are in place now designed to prevent us from controlling our own destiny. So that's something that's I think is important that we get back to remember. But I also want to remind people that today, April 4th, is the anniversary of Martin Luther King's assassination.
54 years. Can you believe
Yeah,
that?
it it is. And I was born in 1968. So I have always said that I am a child of King. You know, I was coming in the universe while he was coming out.
Mhm.
And all of the things that he died for, I am the living embodiment of what he died for. And here we are at a point where we're still fighting.
Yeah.
We're still fighting for those things that were so important enough to him to put his life on the line. And so I know for me, I have always personally thought that I have a responsibility to live that life to ensure that his death was not in vain.
Mhm.
And so as I put it, I say I'm a child of King because I was born in 1968 when he was assassinated to try to move forward. And I think that we all in some respect need to remember that we're still fighting for those same basic rights. And that's quite unfortunate. And I will say we have come a long way, but we seem like we're turning the corner. Certainly for women, certainly for well, when you say certainly for women, that's not to be discarded because that in itself is important. All women, okay, because we are the mothers of the universe, right? We are the mothers of this world. But when you take care of Black women, everybody's going to be taken care of. It just is. When you take care of the lowest on the pole, it will necessarily mean that everybody is taken care of. But women in general, our rights are being under attack in the state of Texas, and that is spewing forth everywhere. So yes, we can do it, and we've got an obligation to hold that up.
Yeah, yeah, and yes, we can. Yes, that's actually our topic that we were talking about tonight. Is yes, we can. We can do these things, and we do have to fight. We have to fight for those rights, and not just be passive and be a doormat, but get out there and fight and do it together.
Yeah.
There is power in numbers. We do know that. So we need to get out, do it together, fight this fight together in unity with one another. So Delia, we thank you so much for being here with us tonight. Tell us how we can get in contact with you and how we can support you, support what you're doing.
Okay. Well, what I didn't talk a lot about is what we're doing as a party. We
Yes.
in the county, our mantra, our fighting orders is fight back.
Mhm.
And we have a massive countywide registration going on, and it's a targeted registration. So anybody can join it. You don't have to be a voter deputy registrar. It's very simple. One day out the month, we pass out 50 registration cards, and you will go to targeted doors who are likely Democrats. And these are people who have moved into the county because we've got to increase our Democratic numbers. And that's something that anybody can do, and it gives you good walking exercise. And you have 30 days to do it, 30 days to get rid of 50. And we're told by the state party that it is the best targeted registration program in terms of all of the counties. So we're very proud of that. But we're not sitting back and letting that be the end. We're still working to improve and refine and do things better because it's about what happens in November. In July, on July 30th, we're going to resume our LBJ Obama banquet, and that's one of our massive fundraisers. So go to our website when we start marketing that and buy a ticket. That's how we're going to raise money to do more targeted, because while we're registering, we're going to eventually have to turn the corner and start targeting people to get them out to go and vote. And we are a committed group of people willing to do that. We're volunteers, but we know that our life is on the line. And our theme for our LBJ Obama dinner is fighting for the heart of Texas. And that's just something that is, I think, is so topical. What's happening with our trans community and our children, the targeting of that. There's a lot of misinformation. People think that we're advocating you're doing surgery on minors. That is far from the truth. That's not remotely happening. You have a population of children who are 4 times more likely to commit suicide. And now we've got a governor telling teachers and other people that they have to report them. You get the correct information. The Medical Association supports providing children struggling with identity puberty blockers. That's all we're talking about. We're not talking about doing surgery. But on the other hand, we are talking about targeting a group of people who are 4 times more likely to commit suicide. These parents are finding their children hanging in closets. And we've got a governor that is now targeting them, despite the fact that the state legislator did not want to create any legislation on that. So you have the state legislator that said, no, we don't want to create legislature. Then you have the medical community that supports providing services to trans children. But then you have the governor and the attorney general taking it upon themselves to go around the people who elected them to decide that they too, those 2 people, the governor and our attorney general, they've decided to make that part of their priorities, despite the fact that the people who've been elected did not want to make that into legislation. That is outrageous. So we're fighting for the heart of Texas. We're fighting for families. We're fighting for the right for families to decide what's best for their lives, for women to decide what is best for their health. If you are in danger of dying because of your pregnancy in your past 6 weeks, our governor decides that you don't have a right to make healthcare decisions. He's decided that for you, our governor and our legislator. So we're fighting for the heart of Texas so that families can become back in control of their families and their destiny. And they can get the governor out of their homes, out of their medical rooms, and we can be the free citizens that we are supposed to be.
Exactly. Yeah. I totally agree. And I think too, as you were talking about that fighting for the heart of Texas, that it's so important for us to be educated and for us to be educated on the matters at hand so that we do not just fall for anything or we follow along with the crowd. So yeah, it's very important for that. And what we need to do is, I believe we have it still up here. Okay, so you could go to dentondemocrats.org, and I'm sure all of the information is on there for the banquet in July, how to volunteer, as well as other information that you will need to have. And then you can also go to votedenton.com as well. So if you don't know what precinct you're in, you can go there, contact your precinct chair, or you can go to the voters registration website, put in your name, your date of birth, and that'll also show what precinct you're in so that you guys can get involved. You can get involved, you can fight, because listen, we can sit up and we can talk all day long about what we don't like, and they're doing this and they're doing that. But we have to get involved. We have to get involved. We have to participate in order for us to see change. And another thing, I know we're running out of time, but speaking of that, tell the people how important it is to vote on your local level, your state level, and not just vote at the presidential election.
That might be the most important thing we talk about. No, not really. Everything we said was important. But local elections, the closer to you it is, then the more it impacts your life. And a lot of times we vote for president and then feel we've done something. But when you want to talk about access to voting, that's going to be local. When you want to talk about, do we wear a mask just so that we can get the virus under control? Those things are local. When we talk about a woman's right to choose, those things are local. when we talk about whether or not the government should now start policing inside your homes and determining what you and your child and your doctor work through. Those are local issues that really impact you the most. So when you talk about your school board, what are we going to, are we burning books in school? We are now.
Yeah.
So that's a local issue. We have a school board election coming up May 7th. And not only is it going to be your school board election, but it's also the municipals, your city elections. Those are coming up. Are there holes in the streets in your neighborhood, but the streets look pretty good in the neighborhood on the north side of town? Those are local elections, and we have people running for city council and we have people running for school board, and you're going to want to find out who are the people who you want to support that are in line with your values. And a lot of those elections are considered nonpartisan, but they're not nonpartisan. They've not been nonpartisan for quite a while. You just don't get to see the person's party affiliation, so you have to get to know who's running and find out who represents your values. And a lot of times, if you call the party that represents your values the most close, you could get a listing of who's running and who's being recommended. But voting locally, voting it for your county commissioners, that's how you get to vote anywhere on election day. That's locally. That don't have nothing to do with Biden. Okay, so your access to voting, whether or not you have to jump through hurdles, all these things come to you at the local, at the state, at those levels. And so you're going to want to vote entirely down the ballot. I think our ballots are backwards. So the first name on the ballot is the president. It really should be flipped over, and the first names on the ballot should be those races that are closest to you. Go all the way down the ballot and vote. I was the last name on the ballot. You had to flip the ballot over and go all the way down a second page to vote. But then there's so much that's being impacted by you. Mental health resources in your county, that comes at your county level. And what I do for a living is work with juveniles that have a lot of mental health issues, whether you have a lot of financial resources or not. We simply don't have a lot of options of where to provide services. Okay, so those decisions are made at your county level, at your city level, as well as at your state level. So like you said, Jacquie, that is something to remind people of. It is very important to vote locally. We have a local election coming up on May 7th. So get educated on it. Contact us. Reach out to me, county chair at DentonDemocrats.com. And I will personally tell you who we believe is in line with our values that you should vote for locally. So prepare yourself for a May 7th election.
All righty. Well, y'all heard it. And again, we thank you so much, Ms. Delia Parker-Mims, for being here with us today. She is the Denton County Democratic Chair. And y'all, all I can say is get involved. Get involved so that you can't sit back and say, oh my goodness, this is happening. So get involved. Go to DentonDemocrats.org. And you can also go to VoteDenton.com so that you can find out how you can be involved. So again, thank you so much, Delia.
Thank you.
With us on this evening. And thank you to everyone that tuned in with us on this evening. We will see you guys on next month, which will be May the 2nd. May the 2nd at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. We'll be right back here live on our Facebook page and our YouTube channel with another amazing guest that's right here in Texas. She is in Cleburne, Texas, as a matter of fact. So not too far, right up the street. And she will be joining us. So again, we pray that you guys have a wonderful rest of your evening and rest of your month. And again, please get out and vote and be involved and educate yourself.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.